Usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of absolute precision,
Oh,
right?
yeah, definitely.
Like you break your arm, they do an X-ray, and it shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points at it and says, there it is, broken.
Right. It's comforting because it's visible. I mean, the causality is entirely linear.
Exactly. But then you step into the world of preventive medicine. You try to predict these complex systemic issues like heart disease, and suddenly you realize that X-ray machine is, well, it's utterly useless.
Yeah, it doesn't work for that.
Right. We're looking at a diagnostic landscape that is just totally murky. We rely on a few scattered data points.
Like a cholesterol test or, a family history questionnaire.
Yeah, exactly. And we basically just hope we catch the problem before it's too late. It's essentially an educated guessing game.
It really is the definition of diagnostic muddy waters. Because the reality is, human doctors are incredible at treating what is already broken. But when it comes to identifying the microscopic, non-linear warning signs of a disease years before it actually manifests, human cognition just hits a wall.
And the tension, right, between the precision we crave and the messy, complex reality of our biology, that's exactly why we're here today.
It's a huge turning point.
It really is.
Yeah.
So welcome back to another deep dive. We know you, the learner listening right now, you want to cut straight through the noise. You want to get to the mechanics of where our world is actually heading.
And things are moving fast.
So fast. So we are digging into an AI News Daily Digest, dated today, April 27, 2026. The mission for this deep dive is to unpack 3 incredibly rapid leaps in artificial intelligence.
Leaps that are fundamentally blurring the lines between human and machine capabilities.
Yeah. Okay, let's unpack this because the journey we are about to take today is fascinating.
It really is. We aren't just talking about incremental software updates anymore.
No, not at all. We are going to explore how AI is moving from predicting our physical survival in the realm of healthcare to anticipating our social interactions through these next-gen virtual assistants.
And finally, it's challenging the very definition of our cultural soul when it comes to the creation of art.
Of a wild trajectory.
It moves from our biology to our behavior to our imagination.
So let's start with the biology part. The digest outlines this groundbreaking new AI system designed to predict heart disease.
Right.
But it's doing it with a level of accuracy that the medical field is calling completely unprecedented. It's not just looking at a few basic metrics anymore.
No, it's leveraging incredibly dense data sets.
Yeah. Your genetic information, highly specific lifestyle factors, and your entire medical history all at once to provide this personalized health risk assessment.
Which is a staggering amount of data to process.
But wait, help me understand the mechanics here. How does a machine actually weigh a lifestyle choice, like how many hours you sleep, against a specific genetic marker?
Right, because to a human brain, those feel like apples and oranges.
Exactly. It's totally disconnected.
Well, what's fascinating here is how the model actually maps that information. Because, a human doctor thinks in linear pathways.
Like poor diet leads to high cholesterol, which leads to heart disease.
Exactly. But the AI doesn't think like that. It uses what we call a high-dimensional vector space.
A high-dimensional vector space.
Yeah. So it translates your sleep patterns, your genetic markers, your blood pressure history into numerical values. And then it plots them in a mathematical space with literally millions of dimensions.
Wait, millions of dimensions? How is that even possible to visualize?
It's not.
Not for us.
But in that space, the machine looks for correlations that make absolutely zero intuitive sense to a human being.
Wow.
For instance, it might find that a specific genetic mutation combined with a particular sleep deficit only triggers heart disease if the patient also had a specific viral infection 10 years ago.
That's insanely specific.
It identifies these deep, microscopic, nonlinear patterns across vast data sets that a human physician would just never even think to connect.
It's almost like, okay, imagine traditional medicine is a doctor looking at a few scattered puzzle pieces on a table.
I like that analogy.
Right, you've got a blood test piece here, a family history piece over there, and they're just trying to guess the picture.
Based on very limited information.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But this AI algorithm, it doesn't just look at the pieces. It's basically cross-referencing the molecular structure of the cardboard against millions of other completed puzzles.
Yes.
So it can tell you exactly what the picture will be before you even put two pieces together.
That's a great way to look at it. And it represents a massive shift from reactive medicine, or fixing the broken arm, to proactive medicine.
Where we treat the conditions of the future today.
Exactly.
I mean, I get the utopian vision, I really do.
Yeah.
But let's ground this in the messy reality for a second.
Sure.
To get that utopian puzzle solved, this system requires a staggering amount of data. Intimate, highly personal data.
You're feeding a machine your complete genetic sequence and your daily habits.
Right. So if we are building a predictive model of our own eventual illness, what happens to data privacy?
Well, that is the central vulnerability the digest points out.
No.
You just can't have this level of predictive accuracy without an oceanic amount of personal data.
Which is terrifying.
It creates an immediate engineering and regulatory problem. Who secures the data lake holding your genetic sequence?
Oh, question.
And even if the data is anonymized, can it be reverse engineered by, say, an insurance company?
Oh, wow. Looking to deny you coverage based on a prediction.
Exactly. It's a huge risk.
And it's not just privacy, right? What about the AI, I don't know, hallucinating or just getting it wrong because of the data it was trained on?
You're talking about algorithmic bias.
Yuck.
Yes. The digest is very clear about this, too.
How so?
Well, if the dataset used to train this predictive model comes primarily from well-funded urban hospitals,
Which it often does.
right, then the AI's pattern recognition becomes inherently skewed. It effectively becomes blind to the biological and lifestyle markers of rural or lower-income populations.
Because they just aren't in the training data.
Precisely. So if we deploy it without stringent, transparent regulations, we aren't just making a mistake.
We could be automating and widening the healthcare inequality gap,
Exactly.
which puts you, the listener, in a really uncomfortable position. I mean, imagine you are sitting at a doctor's office tomorrow.
Yeah, picture that.
You are offered this choice. You can hand over your complete genetic and lifestyle blueprint to a black box algorithm. You know the very real risks to your data privacy and the potential for algorithmic bias.
But in return,
you get an incredibly accurate, personalized roadmap that could literally save you from a fatal heart attack 5 years from now.
it's a tough call.
Does the promise of surviving outweigh your fear of losing control over your biological data?
It's the ultimate modern trade-off, really. We are trading privacy for longevity.
And if we're already willing to feed an AI our most intimate biological data just to keep our bodies alive, it's not a huge leap to see why we're handing over our behavioral data to make our daily lives easier.
It's a very natural progression.
Right. Which brings us to the second major leap in today's digest. We're moving from the doctor's office to the phone in your pocket.
The tech industry is currently in a massive race to develop sophisticated, next-generation virtual assistants.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we aren't talking about those clunky chatbots from a few years ago.
Oh, definitely not.
You know the ones? Dealing with them was like arguing with a broken vending machine.
Frustrating and totally useless.
Yeah. You ask for a refund, and it just flashes a predefined error code and asks you to restart the chat.
The worst.
But this new generation, it handles multi-turn conversations with human-like nuance. It remembers context.
It doesn't just understand your request. It's designed to actively predict your needs based on your previous interactions.
But mechanically, how is it actually doing that? How does a machine remember what I said 10 minutes ago in a chat?
Well, it comes down to something called a context window, along with advanced attention mechanisms.
Okay, unpack that for me.
So older chatbots essentially had amnesia. Every time you typed a new sentence, it evaluated that sentence in a total vacuum.
Right, it forgot everything you just said.
Exactly. But these new large language models can hold thousands of words in their active memory at once.
Wow.
And they assign mathematical weights to every single word in the ongoing conversation.
So if I mentioned a delayed flight 3 paragraphs ago,
The attention mechanism is still heavily weighting the concept of travel frustration when you finally ask about a refund policy. It maintains the state of the entire conversation.
so instead of a broken vending machine, it's more like a hyper-observant concierge.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
One who remembers every preference you've ever stated and anticipates your order before you even sit down.
Precisely. The shift here is the ability to execute seamless, highly personalized interactions at an enormous scale.
It's taking the friction out of the customer experience.
Completely.
But again, let's look at the messy reality. These systems aren't flawless.
No, they certainly have their issues.
We've all seen stories of an AI confidently hallucinating a refund policy that just doesn't exist.
Or the sheer psychological frustration of a customer who just wants to hear a human voice.
Yes, someone to just validate their anger.
Yeah.
But instead, they are walled off by this impossibly polite machine.
The API latency, the hallucinations, the lack of actual human empathy, these are real friction points.
But businesses don't seem to care.
Well, from a macroeconomic perspective, the businesses deploying these systems view that friction as a temporary engineering hurdle, not a roadblock.
Because the payoff is just too good.
Exactly. The productivity gains of an AI that never sleeps, never loses its temper, and can handle 10,000 nuanced negotiations simultaneously is just too massive to ignore.
Which forces us to look at the societal dilemma that Digest brings up.
Right, the human cost.
Yeah. If I'm a consumer, I love the idea of never waiting on hold again. But if an AI can understand nuance and execute complex service interactions better and cheaper than a human.
What happens to the millions of people employed in the customer service sector?
Exactly. We're talking about a massive chunk of the economy whose primary value was communication and problem solving. Are they just displaced overnight?
The text treats this very impartially. It presents it as an urgent economic reality.
So it's not a hypothetical anymore.
No, the threat of job displacement in Tier 1 and Tier 2 support roles is no longer theoretical. It is happening right now.
That's alarming.
It is. But the societal imperative here isn't to try and ban the technology. History shows that never works with efficiency gains.
Right. You can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Exactly. The imperative is focusing on the fallout.
Meaning we have to figure out what happens to the people.
Right. If the AI automates the bottom 80% of routine and moderately complex interactions, the human workforce needs to be rapidly upskilled.
Upskilled to do what exactly?
Well, we have to transition these workers into roles managing the AI, auditing its interactions for those hallucinations you mentioned,
Oh, I see.
and handling the hyper-complex, emotionally charged escalations that machines still fail at.
But that requires a massive structural retraining effort.
A monumental effort.
So think about that the next time you are stuck in an automated phone tree, just begging to speak to a representative.
It really recontextualizes the experience.
It does. You would probably love for a highly intelligent AI to instantly resolve your issue. But how do you weigh that personal convenience against the broader impact on human employment?
It's a heavy question.
If you getting your refund in 10 seconds means a call center of 500 people is permanently closed, how do we reconcile that as a society?
We have to decide if our desire for a frictionless life overrides our commitment to economic stability for the workforce.
And speaking of a frictionless life, the trajectory we are tracking today is just wild.
It's accelerating so quickly.
We've gone from AI predicting our biological health to AI predicting and managing our complex social interactions.
And it doesn't stop there.
No. If it has mastered logic, data, and language nuance, the only frontier left is one we always arrogantly assumed was entirely untouchably human.
The realm of creativity.
Yeah, the Digest takes us straight into the art world. It highlights this new AI-powered tool that uses neural networks to interpret textual prompts and generate stunning, intricate visual art.
It's truly revolutionary.
We are talking about entering a few keystrokes and instantly producing high-definition, complex visual ideas.
And interestingly, human artists are now heavily collaborating with these tools to push their own creative boundaries.
Right, so it's not just replacing them, it's augmenting them. But if we connect this...
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, we are stepping out of economics and medicine and moving into pure philosophy. Yeah. When the execution of a visual idea, the lighting, the composition, the brushstrokes, is offloaded to an algorithm, we have to question the definition of art itself.
But how is it actually rendering these images? I mean, I know it's not just copy-pasting from Google Images.
No, not at all.
But what is the machine actually doing when I type in, a cyberpunk city at dusk?
So most of these systems use what are called diffusion models.
Okay.
Imagine starting with a canvas of pure digital static, just random chaotic noise.
Like a broken TV screen?
Exactly. The AI has been trained on billions of image-text pairs, so it mathematically understands the visual concepts of neon, buildings, and twilight.
Okay, I'm with you.
When you give it the prompt, it starts with that static, and slowly, over dozens of microscopic mathematical steps, it chips away the noise.
Really? It just removes the static?
Yeah. It predicts how to arrange the pixels to match your text, refining and resolving the image until a coherent picture emerges from the chaos.
So what does this all mean? Is it just a new tool?
That's the big debate.
Because, like when the camera was invented, painters panicked. They thought art was dead because a machine could capture reality instantly.
Right, but it wasn't dead.
No, the camera was just a tool that birthed photography as a new medium. So is this AI just the modern camera?
Or is it something more?
Yeah. Or because the AI is actively interpreting the prompt and making millions of decisions about pixel placement, are we fundamentally outsourcing our human imagination?
That is the exact authorship question raised by the source material. Where does the tool end and the co-creator begin?
It's so blurry.
Think of it this way. If a sculptor uses a chisel, the chisel doesn't decide where the marble fractures.
True.
But if you type a prompt, the neural network is deciding the balance of the colors, the depth of the shadows, and the texture of the rendering.
So you provided the seed, but the machine performed the labor of interpretation.
Yeah, exactly. Are you the artist, or are you essentially acting as a creative director, commissioning a remarkably fast, non-human illustrator?
And it digs so much deeper than just who gets the copyright.
Oh, absolutely.
It gets into the soul of the work. Art has historically been the way human beings communicate the messy, painful, joyful reality of the human experience to one another.
It's deeply tied to our lived experience.
Can a machine, a mathematical model running on servers, something that has never felt fear or heartbreak or mortality, can it actually create art?
That's the multi-million-dollar question.
Or is just generating highly sophisticated, aesthetically pleasing content?
Well, the origin is undeniably different, right? It lacks that lived experience. But the text suggests that perhaps the definition of art isn't solely dependent on the suffering of the creator.
Okay, so what is it dependent on then?
On the reaction of the observer.
Which is a fascinating pivot.
If artists are collaborating with these models, using them as an amplifier for their own imagination, the resulting piece might still evoke a profound emotional response.
Even if the machine didn't feel anything.
Exactly. The machine didn't feel the emotion, but it mathematically arranged the pixels in a way that triggers genuine human empathy in the viewer.
I want you to really picture that scenario.
Yeah.
Imagine you are walking through a gallery and you see a piece of visual art that just stops you in your tracks.
It speaks to you.
It brings tears to your eyes because it perfectly captures a feeling of isolation you thought only you had. You feel this intense, profound connection.
Right.
Now imagine a curator walks up and tells you it wasn't painted by a human over 3 years of agonizing labor. It was generated by an algorithm in 3 seconds based on a text prompt.
Does your emotional reaction suddenly vanish?
Yeah. Does the piece become less meaningful to you just because you know the origin was mathematical rather than human?
It challenges our deep-seated bias that artistic value must be inextricably linked to human effort and human suffering.
It really does.
If the emotional resonance is real, we may have to completely redefine how we value creativity.
It is so much to wrap your head around, but looking back at the full scope of today's source material, the through line here is just incredible.
It really is. In a single daily digest, we've watched AI fundamentally alter the entire spectrum of the human experience. It's everywhere.
We started with biology, looking at algorithms that map high-dimensional vector spaces to predict our physical health.
Then we looked at behavioral patterns.
Right, examining conversational agents that use vast context windows to anticipate our needs and challenge our economic structures.
And we ended with imagination.
Exploring diffusion models that force us to question the nature of creativity and authorship itself.
It's all connected.
The connective tissue is the rapid acceleration of machines moving from simply computing data to deeply understanding and predicting core human functions.
It's a profound shift. And it leaves me with one final lingering thought for you to chew on after we wrap up today.
Let's hear it.
We've spent this entire deep dive talking about prediction and optimization. If these AI systems continue to get exponentially better at predicting our physical health to keep our bodies perfectly well.
And anticipating our conversational needs to give us perfectly frictionless services.
Right, and generating stunning art. So our aesthetic desires are always perfectly met. Do we risk building a perfectly optimized world? That's the logical conclusion.
But if everything around us is perfectly predicted, managed, and generated by algorithms, what happens to the beautiful, frustrating, messy unpredictability that makes the human experience actually worth living? If the machine eliminates all the surprises, what is the point of the journey?
A perfectly optimized, frictionless life might ultimately be a completely sterile one. That is a heavy question to walk away with.
It really is. Something to mull over while you go about your day. We want to encourage you to keep questioning the rapid changes in the world around you.
Keep looking for the mechanical why behind the headlines.
Exactly. Keep seeking out those new perspectives. Stay curious, keep exploring, and we will be right back here with you to unpack the next stack of sources on our next deep dive.